My wife told my children I was abusive so she could get full custody. I wasn't even allowed to say goodbye. I spent years building a case. On the day her lies unraveled in court, my daughter ran into my arms. My wife collapsed and said, "I did it for them." I said, "You lost them forever." I'm a 43-year-old dad, and I lost everything because of a lie. This story is about how my wife, Rachel, destroyed our family by lying to the court and our kids. I fought like hell to get my children back, and the day it all came crashing down, I saw the life drain from her eyes. This isn't a happy story, it's about betrayal, years of pain, and the moment I realized some things can never be forgiven. We were living in Dayton, Ohio. I worked as a mechanic. Rachel was an elementary school teacher. We had 2 kids, Lily, who was 9, and Max, who was 6. I thought we were just a regular family. I worked long hours to provide. Rachel took care of the kids. We had our ups and downs like everyone else, but I never thought she'd turn on me like she did. Looking back, I can see the signs. Rachel started picking fights over nothing. If I was late home, she'd accuse me of not caring. If I disciplined the kids, like sending them to their room for acting up, she'd give me the silent treatment for days. There were nights I'd come home, and she wouldn't even look at me. I told myself it was stress, but I think she was already planning her exit. Then one night, out of the blue, she told me she wanted a divorce. Just like that. No counseling, no second chances. Said she couldn't do this anymore. I begged her to at least talk about it, but she shut me down. I thought we'd split custody 50-50, like normal. I had no idea what was coming next. 2 weeks later, I got served with papers. Full custody to her, supervised visits for me. In the filings, she said I was abusive. That I'd hit her. That I'd emotionally terrorized the kids. I sat there in the lawyer's office with my mouth open, shaking. I'd never laid a hand on her. Never even raised my voice in front of the kids. But there it was, pages of statements about how I was this violent monster. The court believed her. They always believe the mom, don't they? I wasn't even allowed to see Lily and Max. The court ordered a restraining order, said I was a danger to the family. I remember the last time I saw them, standing in the driveway. Lily was holding Max's hand, and they looked confused, scared. I tried to tell them I loved them, but Rachel yanked them away and slammed the door. That was the last time I saw my kids for almost 5 years. Those years were hell. I tried to call, text, send letters. Rachel blocked everything. I heard through mutual friends that she told the kids I'd abandoned them. That I was a dangerous man. I wanted to scream. But I didn't give up. I hired a lawyer, scraped together every dime I had. I worked overtime shifts, sold my truck, lived on ramen noodles just to pay legal fees. I hired a private investigator. I started therapy, not because I thought I was broken, but because I knew the court would ask. And the more we dug, the more we found. Rachel had told the kids' school I was a danger, but there were no records, no CPS reports, no police calls, nothing. The PI got statements from neighbors who said they'd never seen or heard any violence. I had my phone records, emails, showing I was working late shifts at the time she claimed I was raging at home. I even had her own text thanking me for being a great dad, sent after the dates she said I was abusive. It took years. Every time we went to court, Rachel would put on the waterworks, tell the judge how afraid she was, how she had to protect the children. And every time, the judge kept the restrictions in place. I felt like I was screaming into the void. But I didn't stop. Then, one day, it all came to a head. We finally got a judge who actually looked at the evidence. My lawyer laid it all out, documents, timelines, witness statements. Rachel sat there, pale as a sheet, clutching her tissue like it was a lifeline. The judge started asking questions she couldn't answer. Why didn't you call the police if he was abusive? Why do the medical records show no injuries? Why does your story contradict the children's school records? Rachel started falling apart on the stand. First it was little cracks, pauses, stammering. Then she broke. She sobbed into her hands and said, "I did it for them. I had to protect them. They need me." The whole courtroom was dead silent. My lawyer looked at me, like this is it. And I sat there, just numb. All those years, all the lies, all the time stolen from me and my kids. And now here she was, crumbling. I stood up, looked her straight in the eye, and said it clear so the whole court could hear. "You lost them forever." When I said, "You lost them forever," the words echoed in the courtroom. Rachel just sat there, hunched over, crying like she was the victim. The judge's face was like stone. The bailiff stood nearby, ready to intervene if she got out of control. But then something I didn't expect happened. My daughter Lily, who was now almost 14, stood up from her seat in the back of the courtroom. She'd been sitting there with a court-appointed advocate, away from both of us. She walked straight down the aisle and right into my arms, sobbing so hard her whole body shook. Max, now 11, stayed back, his eyes darting between Rachel and me. He looked scared, unsure. That broke my heart. I tried to reach out to him, but the court officer signaled me to stop. The judge called for a recess. My lawyer leaned over and whispered, "This is good. This is really good. Just stay calm." When we reconvened, the judge ordered an emergency custody modification. I'd get supervised visitation that weekend, with a full hearing to follow in a few weeks. I was stunned. After years of being labeled an abuser, I was finally getting a chance to see my kids. But it wasn't over. After court, Rachel's lawyer approached mine. He looked exhausted, like he hadn't slept in days. He said Rachel was considering filing a motion to dismiss, claiming she had mental health issues at the time she made her accusations. My lawyer shook his head and said flat out, "No way. She perjured herself. We're pursuing full custody, and we're not backing down." Then came the media. Turns out someone in the courthouse had tipped off a local reporter about the case. Probably one of Rachel's friends trying to make her look like the victim. That backfired hard. The story got picked up. Mom admits to false abuse claims, father fights for custody. People in town started talking. Rachel's coworkers started treating her differently. Parents at the schools started whispering. I heard from friends that Rachel was melting down, calling people, crying on the phone, saying she was misunderstood. She even tried to post on social media, spinning this narrative that she was manipulated by lawyers and pressured into making false claims. I stayed silent. My lawyer told me to say nothing publicly, let the court do the talking. But at home, I was a mess. I'd sit in my apartment, staring at the walls, thinking about all the birthdays I missed. All the nights I wasn't there to tuck my kids in. All the times Lily must have cried, wondering why her dad didn't love her. I wanted to scream. I wanted to punch a wall. Then, one night, I got a knock at the door. It was Lily. Alone. She stood there, holding her phone in one hand and a backpack in the other. She looked up at me with these wide, tear-filled eyes and said, "Dad, I want to come home." I pulled her into the apartment and just held her, both of us crying. She told me how Rachel would scream at her and Max if they asked about me. How Rachel made her write things in a journal, lies, about how I'd hurt them. How Rachel had told her she'd go to jail if she ever told the truth. It was worse than I thought. Rachel hadn't just lied in court. She'd poisoned the kids against me, twisted their minds to believe I was a monster. And then Lily said something I'll never forget. She told us you'd kill us if we ever tried to see you again. That was the moment my blood ran cold. I realized then, this wasn't just a custody battle. Rachel had been psychologically abusing my kids for years. And I knew right then, I wasn't just fighting for my rights anymore. I was fighting to save them. When Lily told me what Rachel had done, making her and Max write lies, scaring them into thinking I'd kill them if they ever came near me, I felt my heart twist into something ugly. I knew I had to protect them, no matter what. I called my lawyer that night. Told him everything. He was quiet for a second, then said, "We're going to the police." I filed an emergency report with Child Protective Services the next morning. The investigators showed up at Rachel's house that same day. I didn't know it at the time, but it turned into a full-blown welfare check. Lily had left, but Max was still there. When they interviewed him, the kid broke down crying, told them what Rachel had been doing, how she told them I was dangerous, how she'd yelled at them, and how she told them I'd hurt them if they ever left her. CPS took Max out of the house that day. Rachel lost custody on the spot. Full, permanent custody was awarded to me. Rachel was allowed supervised visits only, and the judge ordered a full psychological evaluation on her. When the reports came back, they were brutal. The court-appointed psychologist said Rachel had a pattern of manipulative behavior and showed signs of a personality disorder, likely untreated. She wasn't just a liar, she was a danger to the kids. But it didn't end there. The DA decided to press charges against Rachel for perjury and filing false reports. That's right, Rachel got arrested. In court, I sat there as she was led in wearing handcuffs, her face pale and streaked with tears. She tried to avoid looking at me, but at one point, she glanced my way, like she was searching for a sign of sympathy. I just stared at her. I wasn't angry anymore. I was done. Rachel took a plea deal, avoided jail, but she was slapped with probation, mandatory counseling, and a permanent mark on her record for filing false accusations. She lost her teaching license. Couldn't work at the school anymore. Couldn't go near my kids without a court supervisor present. It was over. But here's where the twist comes in. My kids didn't just magically come back to me like everything was fine. Lily especially struggled. She was angry, confused, sometimes scared of me even though she knew the truth. Max was quiet, withdrawn, barely spoke for months. I thought winning custody was the end of the fight, but it wasn't. It took years of therapy, family counseling, and just being there every single day, proving I wasn't the monster they were told I was. I went to every school event, every doctor's appointment, every single soccer practice, even when I was exhausted from work. I had to earn their trust back, inch by inch. And I did. Last year, Lily graduated high school. She asked me, not Rachel, to be the one who walked her down the field for senior night. Max is playing football now. Calls me Dad, like it's no big deal. Rachel? She moved out of state. Tried to reconnect with the kids once. Lily told her straight up. You lied about Dad. I can't trust you. Max doesn't even call her mom anymore. I ran into Rachel once, at a grocery store. She looked like a ghost of who she used to be. Haggard, bitter, alone. She looked at me, like she wanted to say something. I didn't give her the chance. I just stared at her, calm, steady. And she turned and walked away. That was the last time I ever saw her. As for me, I'm still picking up the pieces. I'm not perfect. I lost years with my kids I can never get back. I still wake up some nights in a cold sweat, remembering the day they took them away from me. But I'm here. I'm their dad. And that's something Rachel can never, ever take away again. When the judge ruled that Rachel had lost custody and I was granted full rights, I should have felt relief. But all I felt was exhaustion and anger. Years. She stole years of my life. She took my kids, turned them against me, and sat there in court pretending she was the victim. And the worst part? My kids were still scarred. Lily was 15 by then, but she wasn't the same little girl I remembered. She was angry, angry at me, angry at her mom, angry at the whole world. Max was 12 and couldn't even look me in the eye. They'd been fed poison for too long. I thought the courtroom battle was the end. It wasn't. It was just the start of another war, undoing what Rachel had done. I tried. God, I tried. Therapy sessions. Family counseling. Late nights sitting on the floor next to Lily's bed while she cried about things her mother had drilled into her, lies that I had to gently unravel, one by one. And that's when the real twist hit me like a gut punch. One night, Lily was scrolling through her old messages on an old iPad she hadn't touched in years. She called me over, tears in her eyes. There were voice recordings. Rachel telling Lily to say in her diary that I had hit her. Coaching her on what to tell the court counselor. Telling her if she ever told the truth, Dad will go to jail forever, and it'll be your fault. It wasn't just psychological abuse. It was coercion. I took the recordings straight to my lawyer and the police. And that's when the real storm started. The DA reopened the criminal case. Rachel was charged with child endangerment, witness tampering, and filing false reports. They raided her house and found more. Journals. Notes. Scripts she'd written for the kids to memorize. Even emails to her own lawyer, bragging about how smart she was for manipulating the system. This time, there was no plea deal. No probation. Rachel was arrested in front of her coworkers at the school where she was trying to get a part-time job. The mugshot went public. The story went viral. Mother jailed for fabricating child abuse case, stealing custody. She was sentenced to 8 years in state prison. 8 years. The day she was sentenced, I stood in the back of the courtroom. Rachel was led away in cuffs, and for the first time, she looked at me, not with anger, not with tears. Just this hollow, empty stare. I didn't say a word. But Lily? Lily stood up and said clear as day, "I hope you rot in there, Mom." Rachel flinched. The courtroom was dead silent. That was the last time I ever saw her in person. But here's the part one don't talk about often, how I almost lost my kids, even after I won. They were so messed up from Rachel's lies. Lily spiraled, she got into fights at school, started skipping class. Max started acting out too. I was so focused on revenge and proving the truth that I missed the fact that my kids were falling apart in front of me. And yeah, I'll say it, I wasn't a perfect dad. I was angry. I was bitter. Some nights, I'd drink too much, sit in the dark, and think about how badly I wanted to make Rachel pay. I even thought about showing up at her house before the arrest and confronting her directly, but I didn't. I'm lucky I didn't. That would have destroyed everything. In the end, I realized that my fight wasn't just about punishing Rachel. It was about healing my kids. It took years. Therapy, patience, breaking down walls. I had to earn back Lily and Max's trust one day at a time. Now, Lily's in college. She wants to be a therapist, to help kids like her. Max is 17, on the football team, and wants to study law. And me? I'm sober now. Still a mechanic. Still their dad. Rachel? She got out on parole last year. She tried to write Lily and Max letters from prison, but they never responded. They don't want anything to do with her. Last I heard, she's living in some rundown apartment in a different state, working as a cashier. Alone. I don't hate her anymore. I don't care enough to hate her. But I'll tell you this, the day the judge ruled in my favor, and Lily ran into my arms in that courtroom, was the day Rachel lost everything. And that was justice.